Looking for a college where you can learn by doing? The University of Northwestern Ohio puts the wrench in your hand and your future in motion.
I would recommend UNOH to anybody who wants to excel in this industry.
With industry connections, cutting-edge equipment, and programs in automotive, diesel, high performance, robotics, and more, this is education that works.
You will come to this school and you will leave 10 times what you were when you came here.
Apply now at unoh.edu.
In week number 8 of the UNOH College Cup Series, we go to a track known by many names. The track too tough to tame, the Lady in Black. But tonight, it'll host the race 8 of season 14 here in the UNOH College Cup Series. Thank you all for joining us here on Green Flag TV for the Southern 200, presented by the Napa Longland Corporation. Alongside me is Ron Mons, everyone's favorites. And behind the scenes is Howie Burrows, making us sound and look good as well. And Ron, we go to a track that we saw in a lot of leagues this past week here on Green Flag TV in real life, and now it's time for these drivers to take it on in the CIL.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing this. Yeah, the Cup cars had a pretty interesting go of things this past weekend in real life. Of course, different rules package here in this sim, but still looking forward to this one. The Lady in Black is always too tough to tame, so you had to slide the both of them in one shot. But I'm looking forward to this. You know, I think it's going to be a race that will test these competitors' nerves, test their skill, and with the increased pressure as we get towards the end of the 2026 campaign, I'm looking forward to seeing which drivers will be able to cope with the challenge brilliantly and which others may fall short.
Absolutely. With Embry-Riddle's Brian Ferretta winning last week at Kentucky, we're entering a little stretch here to the second half of the season where we go to Darlington, and then next week we go to Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, which is just a whole different wild card here for a lot of these drivers. So I think a lot of the driver track here in Darlington will carry on in the next week. So for these drivers that might want to pull a gap here in the standings, I think tonight will be a good night to get it done. When we ever come to the Darlington here in the UNOH College Cup Series, it seems like a great time for the drivers, and a lot of the time, you know, we get those Darlington stripes a whole heck of a lot. So all that being said and done, before we get too far into Darlington here, we want to talk about those who keep the lights on physically in Darlington here tonight, starting out with UNOH, the season-long sponsor. Looking to land a career in racing? Begin your education at the university that started it all. UNOH works with some of the nation's premier race teams and gives students the hands-on experience needed to launch their careers. Turn your passion into a career at www.unoh.edu. Again, www.unoh.edu. And tonight's race sponsor, it's your favorite Napa Longland Corporation for your car, truck, SUV, and heavy-duty needs. Visit Napa and get the Napa know-how. And then also with that, the CIL has a lot going on throughout this week, along with its sports car and FC series. So if you want to look at that, there's also the Collegiate iRacing League website if you want to go take a look into that. What's left of really these seasons throughout the back half of the spring semester. So, you know, Ron, we got a lot of fast drivers, and you know, some people also trying to shake it up here in qualifying. You know, when you come to Darlington, you know, for these drivers starting up at the front, what do you think is going to differentiate those at the front comparative to those further on back?
Well, I think at the start of this race, what they're going to have the benefit of is not a lot of traffic right up in front of them, having that clean start, clean getaway, not having to worry about drivers getting sideways, slideways, and tank slapping into the wall right in front of you is certainly going to help you out. But Brad, I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a fun night for us here in the broadcast booth, and I think it may be just about time for us to get the festivities up and rolling by taking a look at our starting grid here tonight.
Absolutely. And putting it on top here, the 26 of Edward Sanchez from Baruch. He's brought it here to Darlington. Outside of him is the 334 of Reese Bayham, the current points leader from Auburn. In row 2, it's at University of Kentucky Wildcat Machine, James Bowman to his outside, Austin DeLong from Penn College Technology. In row 3, in the 5th position, it is Aaron. We're getting a little shifty here. Aaron Brown, it looks like, in the 16 of Eastern Shore Community College, with Logan Smith from Auburn University lining up alongside him. Brian Ferretta, last week's winner from Embry-Riddle, in 7th. Trey Lambrecht in that 43 from Texas A&M, University of San Antonio. And 8th, rounding out your top 10, it's Matt Gagnon from the University of New Hampshire, Thomas Coonan from the University of Missouri.
And looking at the rest of the field from there, we got Tyler Skosen starting this race in 11th. Anthony Salviano, who was not here last week, making his return starting alongside in 12th. Brennan Lyman will be in 13th alongside Colby Goldschmidt in 14th place. Right behind them on row number 8 will be Andrew McGill alongside Jake Cummings. Right behind them on your 9th row here tonight will be Sebastian Perez alongside Cade Corbin. And rounding out your top 20 here tonight at Darlington will be Ethan Head alongside Ryan Smith.
And rounding out your field, we have a 32-car grid here tonight. We got Josh Camphor, Miguel Carrera sitting in row 11. Aaron Ramon, Lee Winters in row 12. And then you got Wesley Shaw, Robbie Hotchkiss, row 13. Row 14, and the last drivers to set a qualifying time, and Madison Ulrich and Andrew Voigt. And then the 4 drivers that did not set a qualifying time, Jack Wilson, Roger Primo. And rounding out your field here tonight, Zach Tallman and Carter Copini. And as these cars start getting, starting to get into the flow of it here, they had a lot of practice and a lot of drivers were obviously ready for this race, it feels like. But Ron, when we get to this green flag, drop of this green flag, what do you expect?
I'm expecting a slight sense of panic. We're not going to be like full on like Black Friday territory trying to hunt for a half-price flat screen television, but we're going to be like a little bit nervous. It's like the scene inside of a fast food restaurant in case somebody pulls out a weapon and tries out from Philly. I've had experience seeing stories of that variety, but now I'm expecting a slight sense of panic once we get that green flag, and doubly so with some drivers starting a little bit farther towards the back, some EOLs for the likes of the 71 and the 23, and a 1-lap hold penalty as well for car 16 to start off this race. They're going to be on the back foot massively.
Well, Edward Sanchez from Baruch will lead this field back to the restart zone with Reese Bayhem to his outside as they make the journey now into the restart zone for the drop of the green flag presented by the Napa Longland Corporation. We are underway here for the Southern 200. Coming out of turn 4, that 26 is on a mission. He's going to keep it out in front, about 3/10 going across the stripe this time by. You saw some drivers adding to the Darlington stripe early. I believe Jake Cummings got into the wall a little bit here. You can see, but James Bowman, Reese Bam, we're trying to figure it out for second place. James Bowman in that Kentucky Wildcat machine have to fall back to third and be complicit behind the 334s. We look a little further on back. It looks like Austin DeLong is right in front of Matt Gagnon. Some troubles further on back, though. That's Thomas Coonan. It looked like it might be a little slow.
Oh, we saw those drivers already smacking the wall. It was a scattered start as they're scattering, heading their way at turn number 4. Saw a driver with a sideways snap. It's the 04 there, and more drivers involved. That's a 43 sideways. I think these may have been separate incidents, at least from my first theory, but either way you slice it, we are under yellow. 3 laps on the board so far here tonight at Darlington, and let's see what happened as they headed their way through 3 and 4.
Prime suspects coming out of 4 here. That 04 of Colby Goldschmidt on the inside from Barton College. It looks like Trey Lambrecht might have just got a little too loose coming out of 4. Jake Cummings going down evasive maneuvers there, and everyone fanning out around the 43. Luckily, no one else involved in this one. Really just, that's what Darlington is, obviously. The tires feel like, they go away after about a couple laps, and it's only lap 2, and a lot of drivers are feeling the pressure. We're taking a look back here. It looks like maybe with Jack Wilson from the University of North Georgia. You can see also Thomas Coonan right there. Robbie Hotchkiss, Roger Primo getting into it ahead, causes the 23 to get into the 925, and right back up into the 6 a little bit there. All that being said and done, Jack Wilson also involved in some other scenarios as well, as a lot of drivers going to have to bring it down pit road. And it seems like there was a lot of action in these first couple of laps for a lot of drivers to try and get all of the damages repaired here, potentially on this fairly early caution.
You know, one problem that Darlington does present year after year, doesn't matter what kind of series is racing here, it's always an issue. You know, unlike Dover, which has been described in the past as being a self-cleaning racetrack, the high bank so high that everything just kind of skids around. Here at Darlington, you don't really have that. Whenever somebody goes for a slide, they stay within the racing surface for oh so long because there's really no marked difference between the levels of banking. You could just see just an endless bowl of asphalt from the outside safer barrier all the way through to that infield grass. It just, if you have a sideways snap heading out of these turns, you will stay up there for so long, and it leads to pileups taking place. We just saw that right there. Drivers having a sideways snap and everybody stacking in, really nowhere to go, nowhere to run or hide around this racetrack, doubly so in the night. So keep an eye on that throughout this race. The possibility of a pileup here at Darlington, the intermediate big one, shall we say, the chances are well above zero.
And we didn't get to some of the items that are, here tonight here in the UNOH College Cup Series. And, looking through the field, obviously, you could see some very nice throwback schemes, and including that 28 of Tyler Skozen there. You could see just a beautiful, beautiful livery. And, there's a couple other drivers. Darlington always brings back those throwback schemes, and, including Tyler Skozen. We also have Cade Corbin, the 99 of Anthony Savignano right in front of him, and the 37 of Lee Winters are all running a throwback scheme. So we'll keep an eye out for all of those drivers as you see the 37 there in a beautiful throwback scheme. And, some other things such as the in-season tournament going right now. We're trying to keep tabs on that, see who's here, see who's not, to see who will automatically get to the next round and see who's battling it out here in Darlington, because it might get a little dicey if you're trying to get into the next round, nonetheless get some good points out of Darlington. But it's a little harder whenever, you got to just figure out how to just get yourself to the end of this race for some of these drivers. That's just going to be the biggest obstacle. And unless you're Edward Sanchez or really anyone in this top six, it's been pretty probably rough. You got Jake Cummings back there in 10th with Brendan Lyman, those two pushing their way up through the field as they can. And we're going to actually extend the caution one lap here. But, Ron, I also wanted to point out the 80 of Sebastian Perez. This is his first race here in the UNOH College Cup Series at Navarro College Machine, making his debut here tonight. So we'll see if that 80 is going to be able to break through and potentially, put his name out there here in Darlington, because I'm not trying to think of any, I don't know any random stats to say anyone had a great start at Darlington, their first ever race at Darlington. But it's definitely not a track that, you might want to make some friends at.
Yeah, now this is one where it will get physical. That's one of the things that people adore about Darlington, is the fact that it is an old school blast from the past racetrack. This was not designed to design specifications. The turns are a different radius just because a guy didn't want to sell his koi pond in the outfield. This was the first asphalt track ever used by NASCAR, the first purpose-built asphalt oval used by NASCAR. It was only in their second season of competition, which adds into the humor somewhat, the fact that we're going from this to Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City in 1 week's time, going from the first ever asphalt oval through to one of the more interesting road courses completely in an opposite country, thousands of miles away from NASCAR's home base. Funny that we're going from one extreme to another.
Roger Primo ends up with the end-of-line penalty for the incident, and we are green yet again here in Darlington. Edward Sanchez gets another great jump, and it looks like James Bowman's going to try and take the outside line by surprise, get up into that second-place position real easily, and leave Reese Bayham now to third.
They had their way all through the turn. Keep an eye on that fence. Who's going to hit it? Who's going to smack it? And notice very obviously that Jake Cummings did not want to have anything to do with that wall, as we have a driver wrecking farther in the back. Saw a huge sideways wiggle, and that may keep us green. Yeah, they were stuck behind that apron, on the apron. So we are remaining green, complete the first lap with Sanchez still up at the front. Also see some connection issues, but that looks like further on back. These
drivers are just trying to keep it on all four really for the time being. You can see now everyone's single file pretty much through the entire field back to about 25th position. And you can see these two drivers up at the front, and Edward Sanchez, James Bowman locked in right now, trying to see if that 18 is going to be able to chase down the 26. It's very early in this race, and obviously going into lap 10 that time by, a lot of these drivers just got to start thinking, if you want to save some tire, we talk about it a lot of tracks, but Darlington is definitely a place you want to start thinking about it early or dread it later. As we're looking back here to the battle for 14th, Miguel Carrera gets right around the 034 of Andrew McGill and able to take that spot away, as Miguel Carrera had a strong drive last week, gets a little loose going into turn 3 though. That's going to send him up into the wall and lose 2 spots to Josh Camper and Andrew McGill, and now Camper and McGill side by side going down the front stretch. Looks like Josh Camper is going to make a 2-for-1 situation and get into 14th but the 034 keeps it in there.
Yeah, he's taking that ride down, but looking to claw his way back up is Carrera, side-by-side racing. Going on right in front of him, Carrera hits a wall once again as McGill and Camphor still go side-by-side. McGill finally getting the upper hand, as we also have some battling going on a little bit farther up the road. This is Anthony Saviano, the third in the number 99 machine, battling with the 40 of Matt Gagden. This is a battle for 5th at the current moment. Your top pack kind of breaking away into a fight all of their own, with your top 3 certainly pulling away, but the battling is intense all around this racetrack. You brought up a fantastic point though, Brad, talking about the tires on these race cars and how you've got to manage them throughout the entirety of a stint. We see Ryan Smith now starting to drop back as well. Tire management here at Darlington is kind of like going for a trip off to the restroom before you leave on a road trip. You may not think it's too big of a deal to start off with, but that will come back to bite you later.
Absolutely. We'll see a lot of drivers struggle with those older tires. As you see Andrew Voigt, Jack Wilson getting into it, Trey Lambrecht into the back of the 009, and that Penn State machine, I'm surprised that did not cause a caution. We are still green at the moment with all that being said and done in laps prior, but still some hard hits for the 43 and 009. They're going to have to bring it down pit road, try to get some damages if they're not going to limp it out here. And you can see, I think also Aaron Brown got disqualified, I believe I saw on the timing table there in 30th position. So that Eastern Shore machine out early, but the battle for the lead ongoing. Edward Sanchez, James Bowman side by side through 3 and 4. The 18 looking to the inside here, while the 26 of Edward Sanchez roaring on the outside, trying to see if he can keep that top spot away, get some fresh air hopefully on the front of that 26. But the 18 wants it, but the 26 wants it more for now. He dives it in there and keep that position, and he's going to stay in front of the 18 coming out of turn 2. He's going to have a little bit of a run to try and maybe make it work into turn 3, as they're going to go back side by side yet again.
And now what does Reese Bayman do right behind? He's got the opportunity to just say, you know what, I've got a good points lead. I'll let you two battle, and I'll just blow your doors off when push comes to shove. And these drivers are very close to shoving each other right now. You can see Sanchez blinking in and out. That's going to complicate matters quite a lot with Bowman trying to get the move done on him. Side-by-side battling at Darlington is already sketchy enough as is. You throw connection issues into the midst there as well, and it's just going to complicate matters tenfold. So Bowman deciding to back off. Sanchez, it looks like those connection issues may have just been temporary, as he's still holding on to the race lead, with Bowman a quarter of a second back and Bayham a quarter of a second back from him. So your top 3 kind of evenly spaced out at the current moment, pulling away from the pack behind a half a second margin between Anthony Saviano in 4th and Reese Bayham currently holding on to that final spot on the podium. But if those drivers start to battle and duke out like they were doing just a handful of laps to go, Brad, we're going to see that gap close up real quick.
Absolutely, and Edward Sanchez having a sneaky good year so far as he gets loose out of 4. That gives the opportunity to James Bowman. He might have took a little bit of air off the back bumper of that 26, and now they're side by side yet again going into 1 and 2. But Sanchez yet again sitting up top right now. He has the corner panel, but he's able to roar ahead in front of the 18. Reese Bayham, though, keeping his tires fresh, and it looks like that 334 might be the best car in the position right now, as these two have been battling on and off for the last 10 laps, as this time by going into lap 19 here tonight. That 18 wants to lead real bad, but the 26 is not letting anything go. He's led every lap so far, and the 26 looks to try and keep that outside yet again, defending to the outside. Getting in the wall, though, is going to scrub off a little bit of that speed, but they both dime in the corner enough and get the same amount of momentum coming down the backstretch. Here comes that 334 to give the bump to the 26, and he's going to give him a little bit of a boost going into turn 3 here as the 18 still looking to the inside. He's not going to be alongside him, though, coming out of turn 4, but he gets a little bit of a run, but he's going to have to follow right now back behind the 26 again. Another time where that 18 thought he had it, and the 26 defending to that outside, becoming a brick wall up there, it seems like. In the outside lane, a lot of the time you want to be on that outside lane if you're trying to defend nonetheless. And when we get to these worn tires, I think we're going to see a lot of drivers, not trying to get into that bottom lane if they can, unless they have some sort of destination to be to. It looks like right behind him, Anthony Savignano from the Kansas State in that 99. He's jumped into 4th now and looking for 3rd from Reese Bayham. He's entered the picture in that beautiful throwback scheme. He's going to duck out, though, for that battle as of now. As all's being said and done, this top 5, like you said, pulling away little by little. Really, the top 9 are absolutely gone from the rest of the field, and Sebastian Perez back.
Yeah, your top 9, a breakaway as side-by-side racing going on once again. Up at the front, Sanchez running the lip of the bowl, keeping the momentum rolling on the high side as Bowman trying to find any way in the book to change up the status quo, but every single time he goes for it, it has not been successful. Oh boy, I hope these two drivers have Kevlar socks because they keep shooting themselves in the foot going side by side. We go back to the tire discussion. They're going to be worn down to the canvas by the time we even get to lap 30. And they're not really doing anything to help matters as Bowman continues to go for the dive. And even though it looks like Sanchez is just doing everything he needs to do, rest assured that that number 26 driver is putting in a little bit more effort behind the wheel of that race car to try and hold on to the race lead. They are not doing themselves any favors at all when it comes to tire management. They're seeing red mist and they're going for glory.
Still have 26 cars on the lead lap. Colby Goldschmidt in 27th, the first car lap down. Well, he's actually 4 laps down. So a lot of drivers still keeping it out there in the early part of this race. As you see Edward Sanchez getting to the wall a little bit here. And also some lap traffic is going to be involved as Carter Copini in that 14 is slowly sliding back to these leaders. Maybe contemplating, Edward Sanchez getting a little dirty air right now, trying to see maybe if he's going to be able to get around this lap traffic efficiently. So you see he's real slow on that outside line. The leaders have to avoid him, but everyone keeping it single file. And I think Copini's just trying to keep it out of the wall for everything said and done.
As we continue to see the battling going on out there on the racetrack, Brad, we're getting into a solid green flag run. So we got to bring up the prospect of pit stops coming up here somewhat soon. These tires are going to be feeling the burn, feeling the pressure, feeling the stress. I may have jinxed it. Sebastian Perez is dropping down like there's no tomorrow. He's fallen entirely outside the top 20, and there he is, now getting his bearings straight as he heads his way off into turn number 1 and 2, trying to build it up. So there's been a couple of occasional blips of chaos breaking out here. We'll start off with this replay of Jack Wilson from the University of North Georgia in the 925 car. Ships it off into turn number 1 and 2, smacks the outside wall, and loops it around full 360 as also 14 tried to take evasive maneuvers, ends up scraping the wall himself. Now, this was a point raised by Howie in the production truck and something that I think we have seen throughout this week and all the racing action that has come at Darlington here on Green Flag TV. It is painful to get involved in an incident like that and see no yellow, because it's very tricky to trigger an iRacing thrown caution flag here.
Yeah, with the discussion of manual cautions here, I think a lot of drivers like Colby Goldschmidt from Barton, just had to be, well, he actually took a tow back to pit road from that. And you could also see Andrew Voigt had to bring it to pit road. And, just going up the standings here, just a lot of drivers getting involved in some self-incidents, really. Not really anything any other driver was doing around him. You can see the 16 of Aaron Brown from Eastern Shore Community College gets turned right around, and he's actually going to be able to keep it on the inside line there. And we also saw the 8 of Sebastian Perez real slow from Navarro College. His debut might not be ending up in the greatest of positions, as it looked like also Matt Gagnon got a little slow coming out of turn 2 there. He drops down to 9th in the back half of this little pack up front. Anthony Savignano, though, in the 99, looking to the inside of Reese Bayham. Reese Bayham has been just sitting there in 3rd, and it looks like the 99 wants it more. Oh, he's loose going into the outside wall, and ground goes Reese Bayham. Brian Ferretta into the back of the 334, and there's a caution.
Oh, and Bam, the driver who's been oh so quick throughout this season, having trouble knock on his front door. Let's take a look at here as they headed their way side by side. Himself on the outside, Saviano on the inside line. Saviano gets a sideways snap, and just that is the classic stack up heading off through Darlington. I mentioned the matter of a pileup being very easy to take place here, and that's it right there. One driver scrapes the fence, a driver right behind them is going to pile in, and then the driver right behind them, and it just snowballs out of control from there. We see another replay here of Andrew Voigt in the 009 car from Penn State University. This is kind of similar to what we just saw there bring out the yellow. That, however, was not a yellow, as you can see. The 009 and the 43 involved in that. That's a classic Darlington stack-up. It happens so often in pretty much every single part of the racetrack.
The incident that happened to that Navarro college machine of Sebastian Perez. He was coming through turn 2. It looked like that's
that car already looked wounded.
Yeah, it was I
think
think just a long time coming, maybe.
Yeah, it looked like he was crabbing his way all through the turn as we jump back to the live pictures and already see a car sideways. I think that may have been at Mass and Ulrich, but I'm not too sure. But here we go, Brad. We were expecting it for quite some time, and this time has now arrived. The driver's coming down pit lane for some fresh Goodyears, and this will be an arrival that these drivers are very, very happy about.
Absolutely. Anything over 10 laps, all these drivers will be happy to come down pit road and put some fresh rubber under their cars. And all that being said and done, all these drivers that pretty much have survived up to this point, doing great jobs getting up through the field. As you see James Bowman getting it done right now, he's going to be able to stay in front. He's down and away with Edward Sanchez right behind. It looks like Tyler Skozen. Oh, Sanchez stops. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if he got to the commitment line, but Tyler Skozen comes out either second or third with Brendan Lyman right behind. A lot of drivers also taking this time to repair some of the fender flares and some of the damage they took by hitting the wall in these opening 31 laps. And, all that being said and done, it's no one stayed out, so we don't have any alternative strategy to start thinking about here. But that 18, James Bowman, doing, great job keeping it up front. And you can see also, it looks like the 48, Madison Ulrich, is going to receive an end of line with the avoidable contact with Sebastian Perez in the 80, so another penalty to tack on there. But after it all said and done, James Bowman, Tyler Skozen, Edward Sanchez, Brendan Lyman, Kate Corbin, Andrew McGill, Ryan Smith, the teammates from Auburn, pumping it up to 6th and 7th. Lee Winters, Logan Smith, the third Auburn teammate, and Aaron Ramon going to be rounding out your top 10 here tonight as we're getting it stacked up. I don't know if we're actually going to go green because you can see the field is still trying to get back to the pace car here. Have a little bit of time to do so, but Ron, very interesting opening set of laps, but cautions breed cautions, and especially here in Darlington, what do you think we're going to see on this opening or this drop of this green flag?
Well, the last restart was rather smooth, so I'm going to play devil's advocate and say that we're going to keep it smooth. The field has been thinned down somewhat. These drivers have been able to get a grips with something. Now, I do want to make an amendment to what I said earlier on in this broadcast and apologize for a misstatement when I said that we weren't running the same package that the drivers were running in real life this past weekend. That was incorrect. I apologize for that. We are running the same high downforce package that they were doing this past weekend, which was one that, it made these cars a heck of a lot more tricky to try and manage, which is saying something around Darlington because this track is usually one of the toughest ones to try and keep going in a straight line. So I don't think it's a matter of the restarts that are the problem. It's as we get farther along, once that tire wear starts to creep in and these drivers get overly confident and slightly complacent, that's when this track will probably jump out and bite these drivers' heads off. So I think the restart's going to be smooth. A little bit farther along, though, in this run, that will be when we encroach upon the danger zone.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of the drivers right now sitting in top 10, outside of the 18 of James Bowman and 26 of Edward Sanchez, all of them started outside the top 10, have made their way up to the front. I believe that's the 141 of Josh Camphor that's currently heading that inside line, currently not sitting on the lead lap, and we're going to actually extend the yellow one more lap to get this whole thing settled. But all that being said and done, these drivers currently in the top 10 seem to have, at least a clean race car to keep it up in front, get up a lot of positions by virtue of just keeping it clean. And, when you think about it, there is a lot going on here in Darlington. But outside of that, you can also think to end this, this season, tonight's going to be a very good points race for a lot of these drivers that could just survive. We might talk about somewhere like you think of Bristol, or you think of some of these other tracks where survival might be the greatest virtue to get you some good points. And especially with the point system that we have this season and the playoff the chase setup, all that being said and done, every race matters. And for a lot of these drivers currently up in the top 10, not many of them have been sitting in some great positions so far this season. And if they can get a good points day out of Darlington, that's all they can wish for. So at the front, that 18 of James Bowman, but don't look too far back here with Tyler Skozen from UNOH in the 28 throwback Valvoline machine. He's going to try and make it work. In Edward Sanchez, Brendan Lyman, Cade Corbin, your top 5. You can see throughout the field a lot of a lot of drivers, a lot of different positions they didn't start at. So it's going to be an interesting one nonetheless. As the pace car brings it down pit road, James Bowman in that 18, that Wildcat machine, going to have to bring the whole field back to the restart zone with Tyler Skozen to his outside. And we are green yet again for the Southern 200.
A little bit scattered up towards the front as they are still side by side throughout the rest of the pack. This is the trouble point on these restarts, just going side by side to turn number 1, having the confidence to do so. And that's the reason why everybody was so single filed out there thinking, no, I'm good. I'm going to refrain from trying to hack at this a little bit too quickly. It's like rolling out of bed and immediately deciding to completely clean your whole house.
We're getting on those fresh tires and, also some cold tires nonetheless. Everyone going to have to get used to this feeling again as we look back towards the front. James Bowman's checking out for the time being, about a half second ahead of Edward Sanchez and the rest of the field as we're all single filed out. A big old snake coming out of turn 2 down the backstretch as Tyler Skozen's going to have to try and figure out how to get around the 26. He lost that second place position. As we look further on back now, though, Lee Winters in that 37 from Vincennes looking to the inside of Andrew McGill. He's going to follow on behind coming out of 4. That 034 from Auburn, currently the highest running Auburn machine, but his teammates and Ryan Smith, Logan Smith, are right there in the top 10 as well. And we saw Reese Bayham, he's going to be trying to charge back up through. It looks like Lee Winters was able to get the fastest lap that time by, as a lot of drivers hitting that outside wall. And all that being said and done, everyone keeping it mostly clean for this time, outside of the Darlington stripe, as we can look back here at the Auburn sandwich that Aaron Ramon is stuck in.
Yeah, I don't think he's a fan of this sandwich at all, as you can see him heading his way off into turn number 1 and 2. So a bit of a sideways snap as he headed his way out of 4. Wonder how the handling is for these racers farther in the back as we see more drivers smacking the barrier. Heading out of the turn as they're wrecking big time. Huge hits for the 73, and the caution's back out again.
And last week's winner, Embry Riddles. Oh my gosh. Brian Ferretta, huge hit. In that 248, we can see Wesley Shaw with Anthony Savignano coming through 1 and 2. There's a 73 from Texas A&M, University of Texarkana. Takes it way down, unable to save it though. Back up into the line of fire. Josh Camphor hard into that 73. Actually, I think that 248 stayed unscathed. It looked like he might have just had some flat spotted tires, but we'll take another look here.
And some assistance there with Anthony Saviano making the touch. We saw him pick up a penalty for the incident that brought an end to the previous green flag run. Have to wonder whether that would be a similar fate that he has under this yellow. As we take a look, diving it off into the turn, he actually breaks a little bit earlier, then kind of gooses it up mid-throttle. There's the contact. He skates away. As we take a look at this from Brian Ferretta's POV in the 248 car, didn't hit the barrier on the outside, and look at that. I can't tell if that's like Matrix maneuvers or a Tokyo drift, but either way, Brian Ferretta, I mean, granted, his tires have been turned into rectangles. They were locked up for so long, but so he avoided contact, which in all that is a Christmas miracle.
All that being said and done, we're going to take a step back here as we have some time under this yellow flag and catch our breath a little bit here, as you can see some drivers just trying to catch their own breath here in Darlington. So stay right here to Green Flag TV. We'll be right back with the Southern 200 presented by the Matt Longland Corporation.
Looking for a college where you can learn by doing? The University of Northwestern Ohio puts the wrench in your hand and your future in motion.
I would recommend UNOH to anybody who wants to excel in this industry.
With industry connections, cutting-edge equipment, and programs in automotive, diesel, high performance, robotics, and more, this is education that works.
You will come to this school and you will leave 10 times what you were when you came here.
Apply now at unoh.edu.
And welcome back to Darlington here tonight. You can see a lot of these drivers just surviving for the time being. A lot of Auburn cars still out there, obviously all running that similar paint scheme. And also Reese Bayham, it looks like, coming off pit road. But still at the front, you got that James Bowman machine. Edward Sanchez still at the front, going to be lining up. It looks like Edward Sanchez might have a little bit of connection issues for the time being, but still here nonetheless. Tyler Skos and Cade Corbin from the University of Alabama, Huntsville. Line up in row 2, Brendan Lyman, Andrew McGill, Lee Winter, Aaron Ramon, Ryan Smith, Miguel Carrera rounds out your top 10 for this restart. And under the lights, we think the hot track might be not the greatest situations for these tires here, Ron, but a lot of the time I really think being at a night track or a night race here in Darlington helps some of these drivers. Not a lot, though. You're still in Darlington.
Yeah, no, Darlington is Darlington. There's not much that can really help out these drivers around here, but I feel like the rain, not the rain. If it was raining around here, we would be in some real trouble. But no, I think the night is maybe helping these drivers out somewhat, just familiar conditions, and they won't have to worry about tire overheating as we get back to the restart zone.
James Bowman takes the green flag. Edward Sanchez right there, though. Drag racing down the front stretch as we are green yet again here in Darlington.
And seeing a familiar sight, the side-by-side racing between Sanchez and Bowman continuing. Bowman's been trying to hack at that for quite some time. He's trying to chop down a tree with a pair of chopsticks. It hasn't worked out well at all for him. We'll see if he can finally break through, but it has been a very tough road for that number 18 car.
Yeah, it seems like when the 26 is on that outside line, it seems like he's just on a rocket ship as he's able to take the lead away from the 18 that time by. And looking back, Cade Corbin able to take that third spot away from Tyler Skozen on the restart. That University of Alabama Huntsville machine going to try and see if he can catch up to these top two. They got a little bit of a gap. And now Tyler Skozen filing on behind. Everyone's single file back throughout the entire field. Now looking back to about the 14th position with Sebastian Perez stuck in this little gaggle of cars behind the teammates of Logan Smith and Ryan Smith. And, it has been a day for that 80. He's been in a little craziness here in his debut, but still keeping it under him, still in the top 15 as it stands. As we look back towards the front, a tenth and a half between the top two, and that is it, as it looks like the 18 is just staying on the back bumper of the 26 as much as he can, try to formulate some sort of way to maybe get around the 26, but it seems like if he goes to the inside, it does not work unless he has a super heck of a run. And, that 26, I think, has to make a mistake for this 18 to have any sort of chance right now.
Yeah, he has been glued up to that top side, keeping it up against the fence. He's been on rails. Now, he hasn't been going fast on those rails. He hasn't been able to pull away, but he's been able to keep it on rails nonetheless. Now, oh no! He has a sideways snap through the turn. The commentator's Jing striking right away. He is still sideways, going to slide against the wall. He makes contact with the car right behind him. The caution is out. I believe it was Cade Corbin that got a piece of that.
That was insane. We watched the 26 get loose right in front of us. He was trying to push it, I think, a little too hard to try and maybe get a little bit of a gap to the 18, but nonetheless, he just sends it right around going through turns 3 here. And James Bowman, able to squeak on by there, and it looked good for a moment. Cade Corbin had nowhere to go, though, gets into the back of the 26, and it's pretty much a little bit of a parking lot here as everyone tries to scatter to get by those two. Nothing crucial, nothing crazy or critical, but still, nonetheless, another caution here in Darlington, and another couple of fenders here busted up because of it. Cade Corbin's going to be able to keep his position, it looks like, though. Oh, no, actually, he fell back. That is Brendan Lyman in the 78, and it looks like some drivers going to bring it down pit road, potentially faking out. Welcome back, everyone. Apologies for the technical difficulties for the time being, but we are back here in Darlington for the Southern 200, and James Bowman still at the helm here, up at front in that Kentucky Wildcat machine. Tyler Skozen, Brendan Lyman rounding out your podium positions, but the Vincennes machine of Lee Winters currently in 4th, starting 24th, up 20 positions, currently up into that 4th place position, but Miguel Carrera, including Aaron Ramon, all starting around each other in 22nd and 23rd, also into the top 5 and 6 positions. And all that being said and done, you can also see a lot of these drivers, that green flag run that came off this past caution has really spread this field out. No one really within too far of each other here, about a half second back of each other is the closest gap of really these 3 packs now, if you want to call James Bowman a pack technically. But all that being said and done, Tyler Skozen going to try and see if he can get up to the front here in that UNOH machine. He's trying to battle with currently at 3rd in points, trying to see if he can get a good day out of Darlington. You know, Reese Bayham hasn't had the greatest day. Brian Ferretta hasn't had the greatest day. This would be a great opportunity for that UNOH machine to keep on rolling.
Yeah, so good opportunity for drivers up and down the field here at Darlington just to either continue momentum as we get into the second half of this 2026 campaign and get through to the end of the season, or try and build up some kind of momentum. You know, Darlington is a race where if you do well here, it is a driver's track, so they'll put a lot of wind in your sails in terms of having confidence behind the wheel. So keep an eye on these racers. This could very easily mark a turning point, either in good ways or bad ways for drivers up and down the field.
21 cars on the lead lap as it stands. Everyone pretty much on the lead lap. 2 different storylines right now, it feels like, but still nonetheless, everyone keep it single file unless you're James Bowman. You know, he has been up at the front all day. Everyone else has been clawing their way through the field, and that's also including that 80 of Sebastian Perez, who is currently sitting in 7th. You know, he has been up and down the field for his debut, but he's still keeping it going along with Aaron Ramon, who had a great race last week. But it looks like Thomas Kunin might be trying to get past the 80 as well, and contact between the two.
It's been a little bit hectic as we've gone along here in this green flag run, Brad. We saw another moment not too long ago involving Thomas Kunin and Anthony Saviano. Just small little taps like that, small little bits of contact, and that could snowball into a very big problem. I've talked about the Darlington stack up and the possibility of a pileup going on. This is the risk that these drivers run whenever they get into these close quarter fine knit packs like this, even if it isn't for the race lead, even if these drivers are just battling for a spot inside the top 5. We go back to the points discussion, everybody looking for any single spot that they can get at there on the racetrack, and sometimes even for a battle outside of your podium, fisticuffs can break out.
Don't forget about that 78 of Brendan Lyman, currently sitting in 3rd from the Oklahoma Panhandle State University. He's up there. You can see a little bit of an island right now, about a second back of Tyler Skozen, and about 2 seconds up in front of this little battle here. As you see Anthony Savignano from Kansas State able to slide almost up in front of the 143 of Aaron Ramon, but that 143 going to keep it to the outside from Texas A&M International University, but he's going to have to settle back in 7th. In single file, this group goes yet again. You can see Reese Bayham tagging along in the back of this little pack. He's been able to claw his way back up into the top 10 and stay in this little pack that's just keeping on moving, it seems like, for the 334, trying to keep it clean. Trey Lambrecht slow on the apron, potentially going to have to bring it down pit road here. He's actually going to not bring it down pit road. It looks like he's going to try and maybe iron it out a little bit as we look further back up.
Keep an eye on this field as we're going to take a look at a replay of what may have been as our producer described, a mini wreck. So we'll keep an eye on this to see exactly how many it was. As a 43 diving off into the side of the 71, it's been a very, very unfortunate night for Trey Lambrecht behind the wheel of that 43 car. Things going from bad to worse. I will give Howie and the production truck credit. That is a new term. I may have to steal that. That was a true mini wreck there. It was like a half wreck. It was a wreck.
Nowhere Zach Tallman could go either. So all that being said and done, still a little action happening up here at the front. Reese Bayham getting around Aaron Ramon, and it looks like Austin DeLong is going along with him, with Sebastian Perez potentially that 143 hurting for the time being, losing a couple spots here to a couple of his competitors, trying not to fall outside of the top 10. Going to file back in line, though, and keep it moving. Sebastian Perez, though, is going to try and see if he's got anything for the alumni. So you can see the top 3 running alumni in this picture here, with now Reese Bayham at the helm with Austin DeLong right behind. Those two had some great qualifying laps to get them up in the front of this field, but a little bit of damage, a little bit of calamity caused them to go back down the running order. But they have brought themselves back up to the top 10, especially for Reese Bayham, who's trying to keep his massive points lead for the time being in that Auburn machine. As you see, he's powered on back away from these other alumni alike, trying to take that 7th spot away from Lee Winters. Looking to further up here, the top 5 border right now with Thomas Coonan and Anthony Savignano currently in that 5th and 6th position. The Missouri machine going to see if he could take that 23 to the outside potentially. Has been sizing up the 99 for the past couple of laps, seeing if he can do something, while Miguel Carrera is just hoping they get side by side. It looks like Lee Winters gets out of sorts. He's going to go down the apron and lose a couple spots. Keep it fine and straight, though. He's going to fall down to 12th and get stuck inside of this Auburn sandwich here, as we're going to take a look back what happened to that Vincennes machine.
See, just lost it. I was expecting the wall to maybe have something to do with that, but Lee Winters just losing it. I wonder if the car right behind may have potentially affected the arrow on the back of the car, but either way, still looking to make up some ground. Has kind of moved on Jake Cummings. They're side by side in a battle for 12th at the current moment. So despite that Lee Winters is down, he is still not out of it, looking to fight back. Here's another driver that we saw was down, but is not out of it at all. Miguel Carrera in that 77 car, currently running in 5th. This has been a very well-composed drive for him. He bounced off the barrier a little bit earlier on here tonight, but has been able to cope with the challenge brilliantly, jump up into P5, and now having to play defense with Thomas Coonan on the inside of him. They chase each other's tails, nearly make contact as they had their way down the start-finish stretch, but Carrera along with Saviano right up in front and Thomas Coonan behind. These 3 drivers have been in the weeds throughout the night, but they're still putting together a very well-composed effort.
All this being said and done, the one driver we haven't seen, well, really 2 drivers we haven't seen in any sort of battle, that is the 18 of James Bowman, Tyler Skozen, up at the front. Those 2 have been nowhere near anyone else. The 18 has now a 3.5-second lead to the 28. The 28 is about 2 seconds away now from the 78 of Brendan Lyman. You could just see how long of a differential that is as they are coming up on Embry Littles, Brian Ferretta, and just the gap that 18 has been able to pull. And it is surprising that he is still able to be pulling the distance he is right now and pretty much the rest of the field, as he has basically half of the front stretch all to himself, and now stretching to about 3.8 seconds, making it almost to 4 here this time by, as we make it next time by the halfway mark here in Darlington for the Southern 200. Thank you everyone here for joining us for the Southern 200 here on Green Flag TV. It has been a very, very interesting one, to say the least, here in Darlington, but the action's still unfolding. You got Miguel Carrera, Thomas Coonan, and Reese Bayham shaking it up here for the 5th place position, as Bayham's still trying to push his way back through the field.
Yeah, now one thing to raise talking about the way that Reese Bam has to tackle this race is Coonan gonna slide up against the wall. Thought he was gonna hold on to it, but he overcorrected, smacks the fence, and we are under caution yet again. Turn 1 and 2 strikes, and this time it's Thomas Coonan running into the troubles. Let's see as they headed their way side by side to the turn. That was the problem. He got a little bit too low. It's pretty much the opposite of the story of Icarus flying too close to the sun, drove too close to the apron, hit that, and then as soon as he hit that, that back end had a mind of its own.
And that is just the difficulties and a prime example of what these tires look like whenever you're trying to battle it out, whenever you get long into a stint here in Darlington. It just feels like you're on ice skates. And unfortunately for Thomas Coonan, he just was not able to get any sort of traction and just sends it right around when he's trying to redirect himself. So everyone going to be happy at least to see this yellow flag, to get some fresh tires. You see everyone just slowly start making their way to the apron. I feel like absolutely nobody should be staying out outside of maybe some wave around cars, including Brian Ferwetta there, as now everyone takes a dive and takes a trip down pit lane to see if they can get some fresh tires. And you know, the fuel strategy is obviously not going to be any time of worrisome, but you know, everyone's going to have to at least bring it down pit road one more time here tonight to top off and make it to the end of this race. And all that being said and done, Ron, you know, these drivers just got to start thinking of end game before they start, you know, thinking too far, you know, start thinking of other things here.
Yeah, there's a certain way that these drivers have to compartmentalize these races. There's a lot of stuff they're having to try and manage. I often compare a race like this to a matter of juggling chainsaws, running chainsaws at that one mistake, and you're going to end up losing a hand or a finger. These competitors cannot rest. Even under yellow, they're having to think, okay, we got this pit stop going on right now. There's 72 laps left to go. Even with the fuel taken out of the equation, you can't do 72 laps around Darlington on the same set of tires. Well, you can, but chances are it's probably going to be worn down to the brake calipers and the brake rotors by the time you're done with that stint. They will be shattered. So you can't really do that. So these drivers do have to worry about the pit stops coming up between now and the checkered flag. How do they tackle the end of this race? And how is the race going to tackle them? You know, with the looming prospect of yellows, as it has been not necessarily a chaotic race, but one where the yellows have been rather evenly sprinkled throughout, kind of just spread over a nice warm piece of sourdough bread like a melted pat of butter would be. It hasn't been one where these drivers are like, okay, you know, it's been hectic, it's been chaotic, I can come into the pits whenever. You got to think, okay, when is going to be that opportunity for me to come down pit lane next, put some new tires on these cars, and make my car feel a little bit better as we get into the end of this race. There's so much riding in these drivers' minds strategically, not even to mention trying to tackle this racetrack. It's one where not only are you having to be physical, just wheeling it around this racetrack, mastering the art of balancing the pedals and turning that steering wheel with the small little minor corrections midway through the turns as you go over the bumps. You also have to consider, how do you tackle the battles? There's so much that these competitors are thinking about. Any one single thing that these drivers have to add on top of that already very full plate, that risk of causing a spillage.
And we talked about it before, we're on Green Flag TV. Some of these races have been a caution fest, and sometimes there's been some great Green Flag runs here in the CIL UNOH College Cup Series. It's been great so far as we get back to green here in Darlington. James Bowman gets a heck of a run. Tyler goes to try to stick it to the outside.
Keeping an eye on this pack of Saviano now trying to stick his nose into the fight. Not sure if that will work out well as they wreck big time farther behind. That's going to be a stack up on the backstretch.
Aaron Ramon, Edward Sanchez, who started up high in this field. Logan Smith, a previous season winner here in the UNOH College Cup Series, is now Logan Smith. You going to take a ride on board here with the 34 from Auburn. I think it just started with a little air being taken off the back of the 143, and it just domino effects from there. Zach Tallman also involved, and everyone else further on back there just able to slow it down enough to not get involved, but a mid-pack really horror scene there coming out of turn 2.
Yeah, that definitely did look reminiscent of a horror movie as they stacked their way out of the turn. Again, it goes back to the matter of Darlington being one of those racetracks where, despite being massively wide, the actual racing surface is incredibly narrow, very, very thin. You see that it's very faint, but you can see the small little dashed white line there, uh, basically 3 lanes away from the wall. That is pretty much what starts the apron here at Darlington. Progressive banking throughout, so there is still a little bit of banking to help you out. It's not a complete transition from the high banks onto completely flat asphalt, but it's still one where you can't really run down there. Or at least you can't run down there efficiently and continuously throughout a stint. You could do it occasionally, but not all the time. So, taking that into consideration, when a wreck does go down, even though you've got a wide you've got a wide driving surface, the racing surface is incredibly narrow. It is like an alleyway heading off through these turns. You wouldn't usually think it just looking at this track. It seems super duper wide, but it can be narrow and incredibly claustrophobic, especially in the pack. Doubly so right after a restart. One small little mistake from somebody, and as you said, Brad, like a pack of dominoes down, they all fall.
Yeah, it definitely makes it a little sketchy whenever you're lining up in that 5th, 6th row on back. And, it has gotten a little crazy here tonight in Darlington, and it's shaken a lot of things up, gotten a little crazy. But before we get too far here, wanted to shout out those, again, who have able to keep the lights on here in the UNOH College Cup Series, starting with UNOH, the season-long sponsor, looking to land a career in racing. You get a new education at the university that started it all. UNOH works with some of the nation's premier race teams and gives students the hands-on experience needed to launch their careers. Turn your passion into a career at www.unoh.edu. And again, tonight's race sponsor, Napa Longlink Corporation, and the green flag sponsor as well. For your car, truck, SUV, and heavy-duty needs, visit Napa and get the Napa know-how. And, we are coming back to the green flag this time by. Again, you could see this field that started out with 32 drivers now dwindling down quickly. We still have technically 21 cars on the lead lap, but you could see everyone pretty much about 12th on back is damaged to high heck. And we actually have a delayed green here, so we're going to take it one more time here. And I think while we have the time, we have Darlington slated. We talked about the upcoming races here in the CIL, but if you want to stay with us here on Green Flag TV, there's a lot going on throughout this week. And that is starting, we said next week we go south of the border to Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for the national layout here in the UNOH College Cup Series. The Formula Series is going to Barber Motorsports Park here this Thursday. And the Collegiate Sports Car Challenge here in the CIL takes their drives down to Sebring here this Wednesday, March 25th. So you won't want to miss that, all happening in the CIL. And, all that being said and done, it's going to be an interesting one, to say the least. I think a lot of these drivers right now might be happy to get down south of the border with how some of the races are going, unless you're James Bowman or Brendan Lyman, really. Those two have had some solid racing so far. And, Ron, looking at all this with how everyone's kind of fending at this point, what do you think's going through James's mind and maybe some of these drivers up at the front?
For James Bowman, I think he's kind of locked on himself. Everybody else, though, who's been in the thick of it, they have been, they haven't really had a single point to rest or breathe. So they're going to be keeping their eyes pried on the drivers right behind them, see what sort of pressure is going to be applied to them as we see that pace car duck down pit lane, put the field back in the hands of our front row sitters. There's going to be 65 laps left to go here at Darlington as the green flag flies once more.
James Bowman taking that commanding lead yet again. It looks like Anthony Savignano able to keep fourth right there with Austin DeLong blinking a little bit there. He's actually potentially looking for third here. That 99 is going to be able to wrap the outside around the 28 of Tyler Skozen, and now able to get into that final spot on the podium. A little bit of drivers getting a little loose coming out of 2 further on back, but we stay green, keep it on going. Everyone's keeping it straight as Anthony Savignano has now inherited that third spot, and now Brendan Lyman, James Bowman, see if they could do anything about it, try to get away potentially from that 99, who has been on a charge as of recently, battled his way back up through the field after a little bit of scares earlier in the race, but that 99 keeping it going for Kansas State. See if he can keep going. That 95 of Jake Cummings in the wall again. Miguel Carrera even harder onto the apron now. He's going to take a hard enough hit where he's going to slow it down, potentially bring it down pit road. You see him falling down the timing table, and that's going to give a lot of free positions for a lot of those drivers further on back. He's going to look up to the position for third here. Now second for Anthony Savignano. He sends it in there, slides right up in front of that Oklahoma Panhandle State University machine of Brendan Lyman, but he's looking to the inside, coming out of two side by side, but not giving an inch between the two.
And they're still duking it out as they head their way into four. Now look at Tyler Skozen trying to rattle the cage of Lyman, stuck on the high side, keeping that 78 stuck on the bottom. Here they go across the stripe. It's going to be Lyman with the nose ahead. Savignano going to use this opportunity to try and drive away, as Bowman already has done. Skozen and Lyman still squabbling up, duking it out. It looks like finally the 78 has been able to pull ahead as a 28 of Skozen, feeling some pressure from DeLong, as look at those two chasing each other's tails down the backstretch into 3 and 4. The 78 throwing a block to try and cover the 28, saying, you know what, I'll play your game and I'll play it exactly how you want to, but he played himself with a sideways wiggle, smacks the wall on both sides, and he's going to drop down.
Right beside Jake Cummings, they get real close, but it looks like 28's going to be able to at least rebound for now. He's got to remember those tires are scuffed, and he's trying to keep it out of the wall for now. A little bit into turn 2 there. Everyone evades him. You can see it just everybody slithering on down to that apron and just going to be able to keep it forward. Thomas Coonan right now. Oh, into the inside there of Andrew McGill. They get real close to personal. Jake Cummings out of sort in front of Aaron Brown. These guys are getting real stacked up here now. They're getting all out of sorts no matter where you look, as this is the battle from about 5th on back. Sebastian Perez in the 80 able to push on his way through to a top 5 spot for the time being after all this said and done. And these guys still aren't done from 6th on back. Now single file, but I don't think it's going to stay that way, Ron.
Yeah, I don't think it will, and I don't like the sight of this one bit. These drivers, and none of the cars look like they're handling that good. You still got the 28 of Skozen involved in it. You can see him a little bit farther in the back. I think that car is probably driving around with all of the grace of a legless swan. So I don't expect that car to be very quick here. I don't expect many of these cars to have the same grip that they had before. Proving my point is Jake Cummings has a hit against the barrier, scrapes the fence, pretty much like he's dragging a parachute behind him. He's going to lose out on only one spot, though, which is unbelievable, as McGill trying to challenge Skozen for P9.
Jake Cummings currently sitting 8th in the points. He's just trying to keep up a good top 10 standings position, maybe gain some positions as he missed last week, dropped down the scoring table a little bit from last week. And now that being said and done, the 43 of Trey Lambrecht, who we saw gotten some early incidents, has battled his way up to 11th now, right behind Tyler Skozen, who's looking to the inside of Andrew McGill going into turn 3. He's going to try to mount his charge back up to where he was in the podium positions. And the first driver on the docket, Andrew McGill, is going to fall back to 10th, and Trey Lambrecht going to sit right behind that Auburn machine and see if he's going to be able to make a move going into 1. Doesn't look like it, and they're going to stay complacent for the time being here. Maybe, you know, hold on to these tires a little bit more after all the calamity here in the first couple of laps.
Yeah, as much as I said a bit earlier on in this broadcast that it was later on in the green flag run where things were going to get a little bit nerve-wracking for these drivers, well, I lied in that it has been a nerve-wracking restart for these competitors as they are still sliding around this racetrack. Those wall taps for Jake Cummings have gone from sporadic to kind of rare to a bit more of a common occurrence. I mean, he started off this race with a pretty significant smack against the fence as he headed his way out of turn number 2. So I guess it's just a case of some things changing and others remaining the same in case of Cummings hitting the wall. He's holding on to P8 right now. He's going to feel the pressure from Tyler Skozen, 2 race cars that are not handling well in the slightest. But we digress and move on here in this point of the race. 55 laps now left to go. James Bowman leading by a second and a half, as behind him it's a second gap from Savignano back to Brendan Lyman in P3. But as much as the front is tame, farther behind it is far from that.
Yeah, it seems like just a war back here once you get behind Sebastian Perez in the 80. You know, it is everyone just trying to get some good positions here while the tires are somewhat fresh. And still that 43 of Trey Lambrecht on the back bumper of Andrew McGill with Matt Gagnon now in the 40, trying to see if he can get maybe into a good position here. Currently, that 40 of Matt Gagnon is tied for the most top 10s here this season with Reese Bayhem. So that 40 in his rookie campaign, showing out, doing a great job so far this season, trying to add another top 10 and potentially top 5 if he can battle up through this pack. But it's going to take a lot of drive, a lot of willpower for that 40 as he's under attack from Lee Winters, from Descends, Aaron Ramon and company. And, you know, once you get to about Cade Corbin, all those drivers you can see now, 18 cars on the lead lap. It just becomes a little bit more desolate as you get further on back here. So these drivers just trying really to not be the last guy in this group, it seems like.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants to be in this group at all, but they're still tussling to just hold in front of one another. It goes back to the championship discussions that we've been raising a lot more ever since the spring break here in the CIL UNOH Cup Series. These drivers having to worry about every single point that they can get at there on the racetrack, not allowing themselves to slip back, and perfect timing. Of course, this is unofficial, but here's our calculations, how it runs. Tyler Skozen, even with how sideways, it's fair to say, things have gone as of recent here on this restart, currently looking to jump his way up into second. Jake Cummings dropping down into third. So that battle for those two, holding on to P8 and P9 right now, has some extra importance into it as those racers are battling not only for a position out there on the racetrack, but a position in the championship points as well. Still Reese Bam, your points leader, holding on to P7 at the moment, trying to apply some pressure to Aaron Brown to jump his way up into sixth. Still a comfortable points gap for him, but it hasn't been the same level of confidence in the first half of the season that we have seen in the second half so far for Bam. So that gap has gone down a teeny tiny bit as he looks to try to right the wrongs and get a move done for P6.
Not going to be able to battle around the inside of Aaron Brown. Going to have to fall back here and get off the back bumper of the 16 from Eastern Shore Community College. And all that being said and done, too, obviously Sebastian Perez there from Navarro College going to try and defend to the inside for the 16 of Aaron Brown. It's going to be hard to do so. He gets loose out of 4, gets out of sorts, able to keep it collected, though, get down the backstretch. He's going to still be side-by-side with these two, but he's going to lose the position to Aaron Brown. He's going to try and keep it up with, oh, Reese Bayhem in the wall. They keep it straight. We're still going. You can see him further on back there, but it looks like Aaron Brown. Oh, there is a caution separate from this, though.
That's a 43, Trey Lambrecht. It's been a brutal night for that driver. Probably had about 3 or 4 yellows that have caused either been indirectly or directly by the 43 losing control. And let's see here, just overshoots the turn, and nothing that he could do there as he got finished off there by the 43. Once again around, things going from bad to worse, even worse. Or still, if there's anybody who's excited to see the Darlington Raceway in their rearview mirror, it is the number 43 of Trey Lambrecht.
Reese Bayhem, we're taking actually a look back at what happened between him and Sebastian Perez, as we did talk about it a little bit, and this is actually the battle here. So you saw he got out of sorts coming out of 4, Aaron Brown able to squeak by and going into 1. I think the 80 just overcommitted a little too much, and luckily able to keep it off just enough to not get looped around there, but still the 334 not going to be happy with the 80. There's, you see now, everyone bringing down pit road again for another set of tires, another fresh opportunity to try to make some passes. But with 47 to go this time by, I think a lot of drivers might be hoping maybe this goes green, if, you know, and then there's others that are probably holding one more set to try and see if they can get a late stage caution here.
And a caution towards the end of this race would certainly turn it on its head. I'm kind of caught up in that moment that we saw for Reese Bayhem and just the noise that escaped my mouth as I saw that. I have not let out a register like that in quite some time, but I guess the more you know, as we see a drag race coming off a pit lane. Bowman just barely getting the nose at over Anthony Salviano, over Brennan Lyman, your top three as they head their way out of the pits. Looks like it will be close between Austin DeLong and Aaron Brown. I think that DeLong may have gotten the nose out just barely there over Brown, but certainly close quarter stuff. Now I got to wonder here, Brad, as we get these yellow flag procedures rolling, how's this restart going to go? The restarts have been, they started off semi-tame, but that last one we had was pretty much a unregulated bare-knuckle fist fight. So are we going to see that kind of just be the trend as we go farther along here tonight? I think it may end up proving to be that way.
Yeah, I'm thinking especially if you're stuck anywhere from top 5 on back, it probably won't really be the easiest of dirt roads, because it is gonna just be a war for anyone, really. You look back to like Sebastian Perez, his debut, he's gonna be stuck in the middle of World War II, and then you look back even further with Jake Cummings, we saw him in the wall a lot. He seems to be out of sorts a little bit in that 95 from Converse, but still keeping it fast, still keeping the top 10 with also Andrew McGill and Aaron Ramon, pretty much the names you see from then on back. I don't foresee them having a good time here in the coming 4 or 5 laps. It is gonna be a heck of a battle, I think, for those drivers further on back, as the field is just slowly dwindling faster and faster, it seems like, with each passing caution. But with only 45 laps to go here in the Southern 200, it's going to be an interesting one. I really think we might try to see, at Darlington, late stage cautions always happen, it seems like. And, it really has happened here this week whenever you go to a green flag TV event here at Darlington. And I don't think it will go away as James Bowman from Kentucky leads the field back to the green flag.
As I'm keeping my eyes locked farther behind, saw some drivers blinking out with some connection issues. Connection issues, restarts, and Darlington. That sounds like a worse combination than gross incompetence and high explosives. Let's see, as that is, I believe, Austin DeLong that's blinking out. He's going to get overtaken by the likes of Tyler Scoza and others, but still keeping my eyes on that, because if those continue as this restart continues, it gets a little bit wild. That may be trouble right behind. 3 wide racing gone for. That's Aaron Ramon dropping down, it looks like.
That was
Sanchez, sorry.
That's Sanchez, who also Aaron Ramon right there in tow, as we're going to take a look back here at the 3 wide action that barely happens here in Darlington, but it definitely happens. Jake Cummings getting out of sorts, opens the door for 3 wide, and Edward Sanchez gets tagged a little bit, not hard into the outside wall, but still nonetheless uncomfortable coming out of 4. But we stay green, we keep going now as we look towards the front of the field. Aaron Brown up there in that 16, trying to hold off the 222 of Austin DeLong from Penn College of Technology. He's had a very, we haven't really talked about him too much. He was fast in qualifying. He was up there at the front, gotten some incidents, but now you can see he's also blinking out a little bit, but nonetheless still fast here tonight. And that might also, be the reason why, some drivers might not want to be around the 222 when that happens. So everything said and done, he's still looking to the back bumper, getting out of sorts, and for the time being, might be gone. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still caught up in that 3 wide racing, heading off through 3 and 4. You can do that. You probably shouldn't, though. And that kind of just proved it right there. Still some close battles out there on the racetrack, though. James Bowman and Anthony Salviano currently covered by only 0.3 of a second, comprising of your top 2 spots. I have a good feeling about that number 99 car. I'll be honest here, Brad. He's been quick throughout the race. As long as he has the opportunity to, I think he's going to try and get the W, as blinking out bad time there in the side-by-side racing with Aaron Brown and Austin DeLong. I think there may have been a little bit of netcode contact, because you could see Brown get all wiggly into that barrier, lose out on some time. DeLong losing out on some time as well. Those connection issues, brutal for all parties involved.
Absolutely. Reese Bayham going to get around his teammate Andrew McGill. And now, it is going to be interesting to see how these drivers take on Austin DeLong, because he's consistently been a little, hit here and there, it seems like, since the restart. And now we're just, this is where we were talking about, where we're going to see all of the action happening in this packed part of the lead lap. And with 19 cars on the lead lap, you know, these drivers are still trying to climb and claw their way back up, including Reese Bayhem. But, you know, you have other drivers like Andrew McGill, Lee Winters, who's been weathering this storm so far. And, you know, even if you have a throwback scheme, it hasn't stayed clean for that Vincennes machine. He's looking to the back bumper of Andrew McGill, but McGill's going to close the door for the time being. And as was said and done, everyone keeping a single file, going against the grain of what we said initially, it seems like. No one really battling here in this mid-pack.
Yeah, so the mid-pack is actually tame. That is a rare sight to behold here tonight. These competitors, I think they see that checkered flag coming up in the distance, and they just want to get there. They want to whittle the laps away, get into those final 18 laps before they say, okay, let's really start to battle right now. That, or they just want to enjoy the opportunity to have some fresh tires. They've already been worn down somewhat here in this green flag racing since that last pit cycle, but they've still got the opportunity. This is the most grip that they'll ever have throughout the race and the least grip that they've had thus far here in this stint. So these drivers going to utilize the opportunity to just whittle the laps away, get some good lap times on the board, settle this race into some sort of groove, and try and desperately lower their blood pressure, which has been spiking for drivers all throughout the field, and certainly for us here on the broadcast booth. I'm one bout of 3 wide racing away from probably bursting a blood vessel in my eye.
Yeah, I am too. And, you know, I think, Ron, you made a good call earlier that 99 from Kansas State, still at least within a second of James Bowman. James Bowman has been on a tear when he gets that clean air, which obviously is a huge advantage here in Darlington, as you see Tyler Skosen potentially look to the inside, but not going to be able to do so. But that 99 of Anthony Savignano has been there at least within the second. He's starting to lose time now, back to about 0.7 of a second, slowly creeping towards 8. But Brendan Lyman completely in purgatory in third, and then this is the battle for fourth here with Aaron Brown, Tyler Skosen, Austin DeLong. DeLong seems to be able to stay in reality for the time being, and it seems like he has been the past couple of laps, so everyone kind of keeping at least themselves sane and trying to not have to battle around an invisible Austin DeLong, as Sebastian Perez is trying to hold off Jake Cummings, Reese Bayhem. And throughout the field, really, it's getting strung along outside of this pack of 6. Everyone else kind of strung along, not really getting into too crazy of battles, with 34 to go here tonight, past the past the 100 lap mark. So at this point, these drivers have weathered the storm, and I think at this point also it might just be a mental game of just trying to remember how to, you know, keep the speed in it, not chew up that right front, and try to just at least keep this thing in one piece, because I want to see that 28 at least stay in one piece. I love that paint scheme.
Oh, we've got some good-looking race cars out there on the track. I like that 28 car of Tyler Skosen, as getting interrupted there by Sebastian Perez, nearly getting turned off the front end of Austin DeLong. Close quarter stuff for that newcomer in the number 80 car, the K1 Speed Machine. So you have interesting associations with K1 Speed. My first kind of opportunity to drive anything in the motorsports world was an indoor go-kart at what ended up becoming a K1 Speed farther down the line. It used to be Speed Raceway right outside of Philadelphia. So my associations with K1 Speed are my childhood memories starting to fade away. Before I get any more depressed than that, let's take a look at some side-by-side racing that we've got going on right now. With that K1 Speed car, contact made, whole lot of net code, and the cautions got come out as a result of the drivers merging in with one another. Various laws of physics have just been broken.
And it all started, it was mirror-esque of how Sebastian Perez, he got loose out of 4 again and tried to catch it with it going into 1, and these two just couldn't get unglued from each other and essentially just became one. They merged into the same person for a time being, as Austin DeLong able to unphase from the 80 of Sebastian Perez. And I mean, I don't know how much you can say damage was affected there. Obviously Netcode was the big player in that whole thing, but James Bowman definitely was hating that caution coming down that time by, and that was a manual caution, we were being told. So, you know, it could have unfolded there. That was obviously the area we were watching for a lot of that calamity and a lot of the action to unfold. So Caution number 8, I believe, out here tonight in Darlington. Is everyone going to take the opportunity to get some fresh Goodyear tires under those machines? I believe for a lot of drivers, this might be their last set of tires here tonight, so they're going to have to make them last at least 29 laps of green, well, at most 29 laps of green flag racing.
You know, in the history of Green Flag TV, we can add that sentence into the record books. Various laws of physics were broken there, but the drivers now coming down pit lane. This is potentially going to be their final stop, unless we have some more yellows, in which we're probably going to see some more drivers decide to take the opportunity to put some brand new rubber on the cars. Let's see, as the field is down in pit lane right now. Maybe some interesting calls there. Who's that with the big jump already in front? That's Aaron Brown, I believe, in the number 16 car. Was able to pull in front of everybody. Did he take 2 tires there? I think he may have took 2 tires.
Top 3 taking 2 tires. Some daring calls here with 30 to go. Aaron Brown, Jake Cummings, and Reese Bayham now currently sitting in the podium positions, but with 2 right side tires. It's going to be an interesting one, to say the least. These 3 really were battling in that highlighted spot of around 10th place, now pole vaulting themselves. They wanted some fresh air and at least the track position to try and make something work here in the closing laps. And you know, Ron, I wasn't expecting that 2-tire call to happen now. You know, I think in a lot of the races here in season 14, we saw some drivers do that to try and get some track position early in the race, try to see if maybe that would work later in the race, but nobody has tried it up to this point, and it's going to be very interesting to see how these 3 fare with the rest of the field.
You know, I'm really interested to see how that call is going to work too. Yeah, I am not a betting man. If I were a betting man, I probably would be homeless. I probably wouldn't even have stocks for that matter. But here, I would not bet on that 2-tire call. That would not be what I would do personally. I think that's going to be a very tough road ahead for these racers out there on the track. They're going to be skittish as we get this race up and rolling. I mean, if we run all the way through to the end, green flag, the tires are going to be just absolutely demolished. So if they can make it work, more power to them, but I don't think they will.
Well, they're going to have to fend off a hungry group of cars helmed by James Bowman in 4th, but at the time being, Aaron Brown, that Eastern Shore Community College machine, is going to take us back. Green flag racing here in Darlington. Oh, it looks like I think Ryan Smith out into the outside wall. He's trying to save it still. We're still green. Aaron Brown going to take the lead. Jake Cummings and Reese Bayham side by side. Cummings goes around here. James Bowman into the outside wall. Cummings around, and the yellow flag is out.
For those drivers that were trying to make that alternate strategy call work, that works out perfectly for them as a penalty for Sebastian Perez. I believe that may be for incident points as we take a look at the replay to see what went down here on this restart. As they approach the line, the 16 gang off to a nice jump. The 95 of Jake Cummings a little bit squirrely there, causing the field to get a little bit scrambled behind, but that was it. There was a contact. The 99 gang into the back of Reese Bayham. And just kind of snowballing from there, excuse me.
No one getting into that wall, really. I mean, James Bowman had to get up there to stay away from the 95. But, yeah, that 2-tire call was definitely a little... It played a solid part in all that, along with Reese Bayham and, you know, the 95 getting into it. We're going to look back here with Ryan Smith, who just spun the tires, it looked like, and just got stuck on that outside wall. Thankfully for him, at least that caution coming out was going to let him get back to the field, but still, nonetheless, Darlington, we haven't saw it too much today. I know in a lot of the races we've seen this week that spinning the tires is real easy here, especially if you're starting in the wrong gear where, you know, it can get real stacked up real quick on these restarts here in Darlington. And Ron, with now 26, now 25 to go, James Bowman's still going to be sitting in 3rd, and Reese Bayham and Aaron Brown on those 2 tires are going to be in front. How fast do you think that 18 will be able to get by these 2-tire drivers?
Well, if we remain green, I'm going to say that move will be done very, very quickly. He's had the confidence. to keep it up towards the front, and with the tire advantage, you got to imagine that car is in an entirely different league in terms of pace and ability to get through these turns compared to the drivers right up in front. But you can also play devil's advocate, get two sides of the argument here, and say that, remember earlier on in this race when James Bowman was running behind your race leader, and no matter what he tried to do, he could not get the moves done on the inside? If the drivers up in front of him can run that same defensive line, run that same call, maybe they could square the pace and tire difference, and maybe they could hold off James Bowman. I'm still going to put a bit more confidence in the former idea of him being able to get past instead of the latter idea of them being able to hold him off, but only time will tell. 25 laps left to go. I still think it is advantage Bowman as we have the driver also stacking up against the fence there. Very odd. I think that's Reese Bam dropping down. Something's going wrong with them.
And I believe that is the EOL for the 334s. He's going to have to drop back to the line. Thankfully, not too far of a line here, depending on how many cars are going to be able to get out of pit road. That gives Sebastian Perez the front row opportunity, but he has a black flag, so it might get a little dicey here to try and see if that 80 is going to have to bring it down pit road. And all that now being said and done, Aaron Brown is going to be at the helm with Sebastian Perez to his outside in his debut at Navarro College machine, seeing if he can maybe try to at least lead a lap here before he has to serve that black flag. But James Bowman, Tyler Skozen, Jake Cummings, Edward Sanchez, Andrew McGill, Matt Gagnon, Lee Winters, Brendan Lyman round out your top 10. And we are ready to go racing here in Darlington again for the Southern 200. We are green yet again. And out of sorts, Sebastian Perez around in the front of the field. We stick green. Oh, we got DQ'd because of that as well, because of how many laps he was out on there for the black flag, and we stay green. After all that, he was sideways, and we are still good. I think some drivers got some damage. Hardened to the outside wall was Lee Winters, and up at the front, we got Aaron Brown about a half second ahead of Tyler Skozen and Andrew McGill. James Bowman fell back to 5th here now as he got involved with that 80 machines incident on the restart. Looking further back here, though, Jake Cummings, Cade Corbin battling out for 8th. There's also a battle between Trey Lambrecht, Lee Winters for 10th there as well. These guys getting it going on back here in the 9th place position as everyone further on up still trying to just rebound from what happened on that opening restart.
Yeah, I think we may need to take a look at some replays of that. Sebastian Perez in his series debut, gang disqualified there, already hit the incident limit there, so I wonder whether or not it's just been too many laps that he spent out there on the racetrack before he served that black flag, eventually came back to bite him. There's usually some lenience in that regard with the yellow flag, so I wonder whether it was a bit of contact here that caused him to go over another limit and fully DQ him from the race. There you can see the sideways snap. You know how we were wondering what could stop the 18? It's stuff like that, something entirely out of his control. Nothing he could do there. Unfortunately, the 80 car just gassed it up right as he was driving over a banana peel, sliding off into the side of him. He's still not out of the woodwork just yet. The 18 currently holding on to 5th with 21 laps to go. He's only a second and a half back of your race leader. He's also a second and a half back of your race leader with cars between him and that leader.
Look at this, Matt Gagnon, Andrew McGill, 3rd and 4th, but also James Bowman trying to roar back up, try to get back at least to the podium here as we're 20 to go that time by. Bowman looking to the inside of the University of New Hampshire machine. On the outside, the Wildcats going at it here, and it looks like the 18 is going to be able to have the edge coming out of 2. Now going to try and see if he can get past Andrew McGill for that 3rd place position. As a 2 and Tyler Skozen and Aaron Brown are just trying to pull away from this group to put as much distance as they can away from James Bowman, give him the best chance to try and get away with this thing. But right now, that 18 still on a mission, looking to the inside of the 034 of Andrew McGill going into 3 here. The 034 showing out for the Auburn team, and now under fire as well. He got passed for 3rd, potentially 4th as well. Matt Gagnon on the inside, trying to see if he can make it work. Edward Sanchez joining the picture there. He's going to send it to the inside of Matt Gagnon going into 3 here. Those two side by side. I don't think Sanchez is going to be able to get the move, though. He's going to have to stay alongside, not be able to clear at least now. They're still nose to nose, though, through 4.
Yeah, now with a 2.5-second gap between James Bowman and Tyler Skozen, what's going to have to go down for him to try and reel in those top two? That's going to be what goes down, a caution. That's Lambrecht.
And we talked about it again, Trey Lambrecht having an unfortunate, even more unfortunate for Jake Cummings, hard into that outside wall, hard into the inside wall for both of them, sends them spinning right around. And Cummings was out of sorts all night. And again, he was on that two-tire call, fell all the way back into the depths of Trey Lambrecht here. Those two got tangled up on the outside and just threw themselves headlong into the inside wall. Wow.
And I think that final bit of contact may have been a little bit of mutually assured destruction there, as yeah, it's certainly some major damage on that car, but I wonder if Jake Cummings may have a interesting conversation once we are done with this race based off the extra bit of contact that sent them both into the inside fence. But again, I'm here in the broadcast booth. I'm not sure what was going on behind the wheel at the time. All I know is that he got smacked against the wall, was kind of sent there as a result of contact, and that looked like maybe some aggression coming out on the other end of it. As we have got some pit stops here, Brad, this may put this field back on an even playing field, or no! Oh, goodness me, Aaron Brad nearly smacking the pit attenuator. The 18 of Bowman staying out as well. Skozen gets hung out to dry. He's going to have to come down pit lane. We'll be curious if he probably takes either 4 tires or 2, as if we had a driver smack the pit attenuator, I'm not sure if that would be fitting for the way this race is going, or just kind of adding into what has been a truly wild night here at the Lady in Black.
Yeah, not as a racer, I have hit that pit wall. It has it hurts a lot, obviously. So you don't want to even get close to that those barrels, and just a little bit of a fake out will give the 16 at least the lead. He's trying to get back to victory lane, as he's hasn't been back there since Auto Club back in last season, towards the end of the season, the second to last race in season 13. So the 16 going to try and see if he can get his first win of the season, but also James Bowman wants his first ever College Cups, UNOH College Cup Series win, along with Matt Gagnon. Don't forget the rookie there in the 40 from the University of New Hampshire. He's still going to see if he has something to say about it. And also, don't forget about the 26. He was fast, and the only driver that you brought up earlier, Ron, was really able to, keep a hold of that 18 when he was at least, battling with them. So that 26 of Edward Sanchez from Baruch maybe going to be able to get back into the picture, going to line up behind his, old friend from earlier in the race, the 18 of James Bowman. And looking back through the top 10 here, Cade Corbin, Austin DeLong, Tyler Skozen, Andrew McGill, Lee Winters, and Aaron Ramon. You're going to round out your top 10. And now, it looks like also Brendan, was that Brendan Lyman further on back, and a little squirrely, I think, on the front stretch. Nonetheless, everyone trying to also get caught back up to the field here after repairing some damages. Only 15 laps to go here from the Southern 200, presented by the Napa Longland Corporation here on Green Flag TV. As we're getting to the closing laps, and if you thought the elbows were out before, it can get a lot more wilder here, as we have Aaron Brown, James Bowman, and Matt Gagnon, who are going to try and see who's going to take potentially the first win of the season and maybe the first win of their UNOH College Cup Series career. So Eastern Shore Community College lining up on the inside, Kentucky Wildcat Machine and James Bowman on the outside. Going to lead this field back to the restart zone, coming out of turn 4, and we are green yet again here in Darlington.
Oh, not for long. That's a huge smack against the fence for Edward Sanchez. Everybody scatters to try and avoid him. We remain green for now, but more contact going down side by side for the race lead, though. Brown and Bowman.
They're not giving an inch. Bowman on the outside, Brown on the inside. Brown's trying to defend for his life because he knows once that 18 gets the fresh air, he's not going to be able to claw him back in, especially on 2 tires. The 16 slides up in front of that Wildcat Machine, but he's going to cross him over. Looking to the inside here, going across this stripe. The 18 has the advantage in the nose. He's going to lead that lap that time by, but the 16 is going to do everything he can, including tapping the wall there, and he's going to stay in front side by side here, coming out of 2, Matt Gagnon. Just seeing who he goes with. The 16 harded to the outside wall out of 2.
Yeah, 16 hit the fence. The 18 got sideways, trying to avoid making contact. On the 40, Matt Gagnon is right there. So is the 08 to Cade Corbin. He got involved in an incident earlier on in this race, did Corbin. He's now running in fourth. Tyler Skozen, whose car looked like it was driving on, furniture coasters earlier on. He's holding on to fifth right now, side by side, still for the race lead. Brown up against the fence once more. Keep an eye on them as they head their way out of the turn. He avoids the barrier. Small little tap, big tap behind from Corbin. That's going to stack the field up as Brown still looking to hold on to the race lead, and Bowman still trying to hack at it. Similar shades of what we saw go down earlier on here in this race. Different verse, same as the first.
And Aaron Brown doing wonders with that two-tire call. He's keeping it to the outside of the 18, still not giving an inch, though. That 18 of James Bowman has been held up a little bit here. You thought he was going to be able to roar on by, but it looks like the 16 has came to play. That Aaron Brown machine going to try and return to victory lane, but it looks like that's not going to be an easy task as James Bowman still unrelenting, looking to the inside out of 4. He has a corner panel, going to try to side draft a little bit, but he's going to have to fall back behind here. Matt Gagnon loving all of this battling, at least. Maybe going to be able to get some late stage racing here, potentially for the 40 if he wants to make it work, as these two still unrelenting at the front, still on the back bumper, taking the air a little bit off of the back of the 16 and going to wear those tires a little bit more, as now that Wildcat machine has a run to the inside. James Bowman looking for the lead yet again.
And will this challenge finally be successful for Bowman? He's been keeping a very tidy line on the inside. The problem here at Darlington is that racing surface is so narrow. They often joke that the racing surface at Darlington is basically a lane and a half. Not enough room for two cars to really go side by side competitively. But these racers have been able to do it for so long now. But Matt Gagnon right in tow in that number 40 car. He's going to look to stick his nose into this battle here soon. A single-digit amount of laps left to go here tonight at Darlington, and it is still just as close as it ever has been for the race lead.
Now riding on board with the two up at the front, battling their guts out. It is the 16 of Aaron Brown, the 18 of James Bowman. As you see, Bowman gets loose out of 2. He has to wiggle. He has to chase it down the track. He's going to keep it up, though. Matt Gagnon is now looking for that second place position. He has the opportunity to try and be in front of the 18 for the first time tonight. These three all riding on board with those three. It is a beautiful scene, as now the 40 going to try to roar on by on the outside with Tyler Skozen right behind. He's going to be able to take that second spot away, and now one car lies between him and the UNOH College Cup Series win, and that is the 16 of Aaron Brown. But that is a very tall task as he gets a little loose out of 2, going to open the door to James Bowman again.
Yeah, you could just see a small little lift of Aaron Brown's shoulders, weight being lifted off of it, but it's not all that's gone. He's still got a lot to worry about as we get into the final few laps, with these racers throwing bare-knuckle fists at one another right behind. It's helping his case out more and more. 0.3 of a second is the gap. It continues to grow, continues to fluctuate throughout every single foot of this racetrack. Matt Gagnon and James Bowman, if they start to battle even more, which it looks like Bowman's going to dive it down the inside off into 3 and 4, this is just going to help that 16 drive off into the sunset. It's going to stack the field up behind those. Skozen and Salviano going to look to try and get a move done on them as they're side by side as well. 2x2 formation flying side by side behind as well with McGill and DeLong. This is brilliant stuff as we get to the end of this race here at Darlington, but one man is looking to rise above the rest, and that is Aaron Brown now with a 0.4 of a second margin into 3 and 4.
Bowman going to be able to get by Savignano, who has been pushing up through this field since the restart. He's now got 4th place in hand, and he's going to try and trek back up. He's probably the fastest car on track as it stands, but right now he's got 3 monsters ahead. You're riding on board with them through 1 and 2. These podium positions are still up for grabs as Aaron Brown has been keeping his cool for the last couple of laps, but now James Bowman is only 0.3 of a second and closing, as he's going to be back up on the back bumper of Aaron Brown in no time here as we come to 3 to go. Oh, there's a caution. It's going to shake things up. Darlington is known for the late race cautions. We're going to take a look, see who brought that out, but Aaron Brown, I can tell you, is the person that did not want to see that come out. He was pretty much smooth sailing to a win here tonight if he was able to keep it in front of that 18.
And you could see his reaction in live time when that yellow came out. We could see it in his face. You could see a noticeable awe develop as he's like, oh no, not again. How is this going to go down here? So take a look at the replay. This is 78 of Brendan Lyman. He heads his way down the start-finish stretch, off into turn number 1, side by side with one of the Auburn machines. Contact made on the entrance of the turn and just ran a bumper cars going through it.
Yeah, maybe Ryan Smith was backing up a corner a little bit further than Brendan Lyman would have liked and brought the two together, battling for the same piece of real estate. Unfortunately for that Oklahoma Panhandle State University machine, gets sent right back around, and that provides us with some UNOH College Cup Series overtime. First time in a couple races here, not the first time in season 14, but still, it's going to be interesting, to say the least, with this, Aaron Brown showing those two tires can make it work, especially with the clean air. That Eastern Shore Community College is going to have a handful here. As you see, there is only one attempt to finish under the green-white checkered conditions here. There is not going to be any sort of any other restart after this. Another caution will result in the checkered flag under the green flag. If the white flag is taken, then the race will finish under green no matter what. And all that being said and done, it's going to be a heck of a battle here, Ron. You can see these three drivers riding on board, and I think it's just going to be interesting to say the least, between all of these drivers, seeing what they're going to do here to try and pull out the win away from Aaron Brown.
Yeah, and I said that there was a weight lifted off of Aaron Brown's shoulders as we got to the end of that last stint in this race. There's a good reason why I said that the weight was never gone. It was a scenario like this. You got to consider what sort of company he's going to be around. He's got James Bowman, who's going to be on the outside of him as he tries to rattle the cage of his competitors. Again, past the pace car there as we're still waiting for this yellow flag period to end. Looks like that pace car will be coming down pit lane next time by, but Aaron Brown is going to be on the inside this time. James Bowman is on the outside. Now, from what we've seen through to this point, there's one line that James Bowman hates. It is that inside line, so I think he will be counting his lucky stars, the fact that he will not be there. But Aaron Brown, with that inside, can kind of play judge, jury, and executioner on this restart. If he sends it off into the turn, either James Bowman's going to have to back out of it, or they're both going to end up on the wall. And then you look at who I think has been a very strong competitor throughout this race and a very strong contender to get to the end here. Anthony Salviano in that number 99 machine. He's quick. Matt Gagden, though, you can see him in our camera feed right there in the bottom right corner. I think he has a good shot here, too. If there's one man feeling the pressure more than anybody, it is Aaron Brown, and that pressure is coming from a whole lot of different angles.
Well, a lot of firsts can be met here tonight, and it all starts on the drop of the green flag here in the Southern 200, presented by the Napa Longland Corporation. Aaron Brown leads the field back to the restart zone, and we are green in this overtime period for the UNOH College Cup Series. We'll see if Aaron Brown's going to be able to pull away as he's able to jump in front of that 18 of James Bowman.
He did everything that he needed to do on that restart. Gets off to a flyer. Now Bowman feeling some pressure from Salviano right behind. Big smack on the wall for Sanchez. That's going to snowball out of control, but up in the front, Brown able to hold on to a lead. Bowman right in tow, desperately trying to cling on to that second place spot as they head their way for the white.
And this white flag is brought to you by the Napa Longland Corporation. For your car, truck, SUV, and heavy-duty needs, visit Napa and get the Napa know-how. Aaron Brown is going to try and get his first win of season 14. James Bowman's going to try and do everything in his battle as they get into the outside wall. Still single file. Saviano hard to the outside wall is going to take him out of this competition, but James Bowman, Aaron Brown going to try and make it work. Bowman sends it into 3 a little deep, but the 16 of Aaron Brown is going to be able to get a good run coming out of 4. He's clear of the 18 coming down the stretch. It's the 16 from the Eastern Shore Community College going to take the win here in the Southern 200.
And Brown is hyped, and you can see why. Popping off after a whole lot of pressure put on him on this green-white checkered attempt. He all got it with that restart, that jump off the line. If he got off to a slightly slower jump, I think Bowman may have had it as they headed their way through 3 and 4 on that last lap. But instead, Aaron Brown did everything he needed to do, got off to a flyer, drove away, and as the battles went on behind him, he was able to run away with it. Aaron Brown, who's probably having a pure panic attack as we saw that yellow flag come out at the end. He's going to be jubilant as he burns it down here on the start-finish straightaway. Victory for Aaron Brown here in the Lady in Black.
He was currently sitting 11th in points, and he had one podium in season 14, but add one win to the 16's resume here in season 14. You can see the standings here. Reese Bayham at least able to rebound here to the 7th place finishing position. Tyler Skozen gained some good points, and now look at that. Matt Gagnon, after a great run, jumps up into 3rd. These are unofficial, by the way, but still a great showing, and you can see the 16 of Aaron Brown going from 11th to 4th because of this win here in the Southern 200, as the Eastern Shore Community College machine's going to burn it down. Pure relief on the face of Aaron Brown, and we'll be able to talk to the 16 here once he's able to, stop burning it down. But we'll take a look at the rest of the field as Aaron Brown finishes in front of James Bowman by just 0.05 of a second. Anthony Savignano from Kansas State finishes in 3rd and wraps up your podium. Matt Gagnon, the rookie from University of New Hampshire, in 4th. Tyler Skozen from UNOH in 5th. Austin DeLong from Penn College of Technology in 6th. And then 3 Auburn teammates finishing 7th, 8th, and 10th. And Reese Bayham, Andrew McGill, Logan Smith, and Cade Corbin stuck in the middle of all of them in 9th.
And then looking outside of your top 10, Aaron Ramon from Texas A&M will be classed in 11th. Lee Winters is in 12th. Brian Ferwetto had a wild night off the back of a win last time out, is in lucky spot P13. Miguel Carrera had a wild night as well. That number 77 car from the University of Houston downtown ends up in 14th. Ryan Smith is in 15th. Roger Primo is in 16th. Edward Sanchez, who I think had a good shot to get a win, but things falling apart for him, ends up in 17th. Brennan Lyman is in 18th place. Shay Cummings is in 19th, with Trey Lambrecht completing your top 20.
And then running through the rest of the field here tonight, obviously a lot of drivers with unfortunate events happen, including Sebastian Perez from Navarro College having a great debut up until the very end. That 80 finishes in 21st, with Madison Ulrich 22nd, Thomas Kuhn and Zach Tallman, Robbie Hotchkiss, Wesley Shaw, Josh Camphor, Carter Copini, Jack Wilson, Colby Goldsmith rounding out your top 30 here tonight after 149 laps. You can see Andrew Voigt, Ethan Hend round out your field here tonight from Darlington. And while we have time, you can see Aaron Brown is reversing up the pit road here now, and while he's doing that, we're gonna see if he's gonna be able to talk while also going in reverse, as we're gonna bring him up into the broadcast booth here. And we're joined here by Aaron Brown from Eastern Shore Community College. Aaron, you got a copy?
Yes, I do.
Well, we saw the pure relief you had coming across the start-finish line on that final lap, and also the little bit of a panic attack, as Ron talked about when the caution came out. Take us through your mindset and how those 2 tires were able to propel you to this win.
Yeah, I know 2 tires can be hit or miss in this car most of the time. It is very good, at least even, or sometimes faster. And I knew tonight it was probably going to be somewhere around that faster. And just trap position, especially here at Darlington, trap position is the most important thing you can have here at Darlington. It's so hard to pass. So I decided to take it. I knew the 100, that lap 100 caution. I knew that was probably the last time we took for next caution. No matter how long or short the run was, I'm taking 2, and I'm calling it the day on pit road. So and I did it, and it worked out. I'm shocked it did. I thought James, he had me there. That second and third last restart, he had my outside there, and then we were stuck side by side for multiple laps. I thought he had me when he was on my outside, but I was able to pull the slider in 3 and 4. Got the move done, but thankfully I was able to do that. But yeah, it was awesome racing there throughout those final 10 laps, and of course I had that lead by about 4 or 5 tenths. But in the coming to 2 to go, I was probably had the win if we stayed green, but got the yellow. But because I didn't trust myself after that one restart where James got to my outside. But luckily, I nailed the restart on that final green white checkered, and that I was able to do it.
And we go from, I feel like, one end of the spectrum here in oval racing in Darlington to next week at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. How are you feeling after this win here tonight, going south of the border to Autodromo?
Yeah, Mexico is definitely a fun racetrack. Mexico City, I think it'd be really fun, especially on the NASCAR layout. I know back in June when they added it, they added the NASCAR track limits, so there could be any weird slowdowns or any weird off track. So that'll be fun. Everyone's gonna be sending it where they can find grip, find speed. I think that'll be very fun to watch next week. Hopefully, put a little bit of practice in. Hopefully, have a good shot. I know I'm not the best road course racer in the next gen. So hopefully we can get something good out of that next week. Hopefully get another solid run. I know tonight did not go the way I wanted it to. I started a lap down from previous penalties, and we did, and then I got my lap back after the first yellow, and then for some reason my chat was disabled. So, and then I got a penalty on that restart for someone being lined up in the wrong lane, and I ended up being DQ'd, and I went 4 laps down. So, appreciate race control able to get my DQ lifted at least, and come back for 4 laps down tonight. So, awesome comeback tonight, but hopefully we have a little bit less chaotic story next week.
Yeah, it sounds like you are one more event away from a heart attack from the sounds of it. But all that being said and done, you end up on the top step of the podium here tonight in Darlington. Before we let you go, Aaron, is there anyone you'd like to shout out?
First of all, I gotta thank the Lord tonight for keeping me in it, and teaching me a lesson. Maybe just teach me to just calm down, stay patient throughout the race. Yeah, I mean, it's all night long tonight. I gotta thank James for racing me clean there late in those final few runs. Me and him, good friends, racing all every week so far this season. It was awesome racing him, being able to race him up front. I know he joined the league mainly because of me last season. Mainly, I could have referred him there. But awesome racing him throughout that final run there. Got to thank all the drivers coming out tonight, racing clean, putting on a clean race there towards the end. I got to thank all the viewers for tuning in tonight. I got to thank you guys for the broadcast. Got to thank also my teammates Thomas Kuhn and Edward Sanchez tonight. Just gonna keep me calm, talking us through our strategy, and we're all working together tonight as well. So, just I gotta thank everyone else tonight, and also thank everyone at East Shore Community College. I know it's been a rough few weeks here in CIL. I know last week got the Group 3 P2 NASCAR, so hopefully this Wednesday goes just as well. But it's been a rough stretch. I'm glad finally, even though it's looked rough for the first 60 to 75% of this race, but pulled through, got the win. So thank you.
It sounds like brighter skies and a better future, it seems like right now, at least starting tonight here for you, Aaron. So go back, celebrate, have a great time, and we'll see you next week for a little bit of Mexico City action.
All right, thank you so much.
And that was your race winner, Aaron Brown from Eastern Shore Community College. And we're going to take it down track side with Ron, who's sitting here with James Bowman from Kentucky, our second place finisher.
Yeah, and James Bowman with me right now. James, welcome in. It's P2 for you at the end of a thriller at Darlington. How was it out there?
It was a lot of fun. I was coming in preparing for the long run. I love this place. I ran a lot of laps this week. Did several NIS races and just open races preparing for this. And I did not expect to dominate on the long run as much as I did. I was hoping with 46 to go and we get green. I knew if that didn't go green, if we had another caution, it was going to be a mess. And I got unlucky with the pit call there. I took 4, and those couple in front of me took 2. And then I'm surprised my car survived those couple of big hits. I thought I was done for, but my steering wheel was not straight, but I just kept wheeling it, and my rear tires were suffering near the end, battling with Aaron, but that was such a fun battle.
Yeah, it looked like you two were just putting everything out there on the line, and certainly treated us here in the broadcast booth to an amazing race. Strategy involved. Darlington's one that I always absolutely adore to cover, and certainly ticking all the boxes here tonight. Next time out, though, we're going to be running at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez down there in Mexico City for the next race of the season. What are your thoughts heading down there?
I'm excited. I've ran plenty of Mexico whenever it's on the fixed schedule, the officials, and usually on the road courses, I'm about a second off of the Coke Series guys, so I'm pretty happy with that and expect to come out and have a clean, maybe even a dominating performance again at Mexico. See if I can get a win, maybe.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to heading off to that rather unique road course down there, one of the highest racetracks in the entirety of the world. So downforce is going to be at a minimum. But James, before we let you go and celebrate this P2 run and get a little bit more practice in for Mexico City, we'll let you give any thank yous or shout outs.
Yeah, I just thank my dad. He's been my spotter throughout these races. Couldn't be here tonight, but we've just learned a lot. I've learned a lot as a driver this season, and thankful to finally have just a clean race. And I'm really happy with my performance, and I just really enjoyed this race. This has been a fun season so far, and I just continue to see myself improve. And I'm thankful for all my friends who supported me, and just thankful for to be able to drive for the University of Kentucky. Go Cats.
Well, that UK car was looking quick out here tonight at Darlington, and looking forward to seeing it out there next time out in Mexico. James, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time out there on the road course.
Thank you guys.
James Bowman, our P2 finisher. And Brad, with that being said, I'll pass the mic back off to you in the booth.
And we are going to talk to our final step of the podium here tonight, Anthony Savignano from Kansas State University. And Anthony, it felt like at times, first off, beautiful paint scheme. Secondly, at times, we just kept seeing you drop off the radar and then you just pop right back up. That 99 seemed to be fast here tonight in Darlington. Take us through your night and how you were able to pull through to get back on the podium.
Yeah, Brad, I thank you for the paint scheme, first of all. Do you know what it is or who it is?
I'm trying to I kept looking and it never clicked in my head.
Okay, because it's a long shot. I was looking for something 99 Toyota, and it was one of the few that I could find. And it's Alex Bowman's 2014-15 Busch Series scheme. So
that is a pull.
one of the yeah, exactly, right. It was one of the few 99 Camry cars that I could find, but it was simple. It looks good out there on track. So, regards to the race, I bottled qualifying a little bit, but I think I had the fastest car, which sucked because that was the race of attrition for me. The first caution was that I got involved in was I got around Reese from Auburn, and right as we were going into 1 and 2, it's these certain spots on these cars if you get your nose right on the left rear, right rear quarter inches from the car in front of you, it just takes all the air out from underneath that guy. So, which is exactly what happened to me, and I just snapped loose. So I pitted, fixed that damage. I drove through the field again. When the next caution came out, a couple of guys stayed out on old tires, or a couple of guys took 2 tires, I think. And Bowman, I'm gonna have to watch the replay again, but from my cockpit, it looked like Bowman just drove into the back of the guys in the front. So I got collected in that one, and yeah, drove back to third. But as I said, I think I had the fastest car, so I'm curious what would have been the outlook if we were able to keep it a little cleaner. But I'm happy with the finish.
And being the first time you were able to join us back up here in the booth since Kansas, looking forward, even with next week when we go to Mexico City and Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, are you looking forward to that race, or are you pinpointing any races past that?
I'm not entirely sure. To be honest, don't even own Mexico yet, so we will have to see. I do like this car on road courses, so there's a good chance that I'll be there next week. But yes, I had a good start to the season. I missed the first couple races that got on track. I had 2 second places in a row, and then fell off a little bit. So it's good to be back in the hardware positions. It's good to know that I can race up at the front of this league. It's a pretty competitive league. Some of the guys up here quite fast. So hopefully I do put in a decent qualifying lap at Mexico, because I don't know how you guys do it, but no cautions on road courses is a little tricky to work around. So qualifying is going to be huge next week.
Absolutely. We've gone to Road Atlanta and a lot of other road courses that, not repeatedly ran by the Next Gen. So I think next week will be one to watch for sure. But before we let you go, Anthony, is there anyone you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, Garrett and Josh at the K-State Esports stable. Everything that Kansas State does, put out some beautiful cars. That purple car I normally run every week is a beautiful paint scheme, and I'm glad to represent the purple. So yeah, just Kansas State. Glad to bring home some hardware for the boys in purple.
Well, thank you for joining us up here in the booth again, Anthony. And we will see you next week, south of the border in Mexico City.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And that was your last step of the podium, Anthony Savignano from Kansas State. And all that being said and done for a lot of drivers, they can take a sigh of relief here, under the lights here in Darlington. But before we go, we want to shout out again those who are able to keep us going here in the UNOH College Cup Series, including UNOH, the season-long sponsor. Looking to land a career in racing? Begin your education at the university that started it all. UNOH works with some of the nation's premier race teams and gives students the hands-on experience needed to launch their careers. Turn your passion into a career at www.unoh.edu. Again, that's www.unoh.edu. And again, the Napa Longland Corporation, you love them. And tonight's race sponsor for your car, truck, SUV, and heavy-duty needs. Visit Napa and get the Napa know-how. And don't forget, the CIL website is out there if you want to look into more information here in the Collegiate iRacing League. But you won't want to miss it. There's more to going on here in the Green Flag TV sphere, including along with the Formula Series and Sports Car Challenge I talked about earlier here. We have the Porsche Cup GB at Donington Park Racing Circuit tomorrow evening, starting at 4 p.m. And then we have the Mid-Atlantic Racing League at Darlington. If you can't get enough of the Lady in Black, be sure to join us here in Green Flag TV Tuesday night, along with the OMSRL at Talladega Super Speedway. That starts a large trend here of Talladega Super Speedway races as the Premier Sim Racing League goes to Talladega, along with the CGCS at Talladega, including the Sports Car Series going to Sebring. And then you can join me on the Speed Cup Series here at Martinsville this Thursday night. And before we close out tonight's race run here in Darlington, is there anything you'd like to leave the viewers with as we go into Mexico City next week?
Remember to eat your vegetables, kids. No, I'm kidding. This was a wild race. It's Darlington. That should be expected to a certain degree. Mexico City next time out, though, we're going from a very known quantity, even with a brand new car, to an unknown quantity. So we're going from one extreme to another. Certainly going to be a real test for the drivers as we head south of the border next time out. And of course, you'll be able to see all the action here on Green Flag TV. But looking forward to seeing some road course action, getting back into my bread and butter down there at a track that I absolutely adore. I always loved Mexico City ever since it was first brought onto the F1 calendar back in 2015. And although it is a different track, I'm looking forward to seeing what that race may have in store.
And it always brings some fresh faces as well from the sports car and the FC series here in the CIL sphere. But all that being said and done, thank you all for joining us here tonight from this wild action here in the Southern 200 presented by the Napa Longland Corporation. Thanks for the entire staff in the CIL, alongside me, Ron Mons and Howie Burrows in the background, helping us produce this whole thing and get it looking and sounding beautiful. My name is Brad Daniels, and we'll see you next time when we visit Mexico City.